the Super Bowl!
Welcome to Patriots Touchback Podcast.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome along to another edition here of the Patriots Touchback Podcast. It's me, your host, Carl, joined by the lads, as always, Nick and Luke. And season is finally officially over. Thank goodness. What ended up becoming our worst season since 1992, when we went 2-14, we ended up with a record of 4-13. Abysmal. Absolutely and utterly abysmal. Before we get into the dissecting of whatever the hell this game was, because it was just a game, that's all we can really say. Please make sure you're smashing the like button, hit the subscribe button while you're at it. Follow us all our social media platforms on Facebook and on Twitter, and make sure you follow us on our podcast on Spotify as well. Gentlemen, good to everyone. Hope you are all well. I mean, where do we start with this game? Because there's more on what's going on off the field of what there is on the field currently as we stand. It's just been an absolute terrible season. But for this game in question, it was a snow globe game, and usually happens in a snow globe game is very low scoring. Not a lot of offense through the air. But it just felt like we were going through the emotions, shall we say. You know, we wanted that last win of the regular season. We wanted that win over the Poxy Jets to just have a little bit of nice way to close out the season. And instead, we close out the season with the equivalent of a wet fart trickling down the leg to end what was our pathetic season. Nick, what's your reaction to this? Because obviously this game was appalling, to say the least.
It was. I don't know whether I can bring to hand any worse games that I've watched. There's it was dire, and I mean I couldn't even bring myself to watch the whole game as a rerun. I didn't watch it live. I just watched the highlights package, and even then I'm playing really loosely with the word highlights because there wasn't many. It's one of those. It's the same old. I look at my notes now, and it's like Bailey Zappi struggled 6 out of 20, 73 yards, one interception, and 4 sacks. How many times in the last 4 weeks have we said about Zappi, being a little bit here and a little bit there, and few yards here, sacks, interceptions. He's doesn't seem to be learning. The biggest thing I took out of the game watching was we had no answer for Breece Hall. Every time he ran inside the numbers, we managed to stifle him and shut him down. As soon as he chose to run outside the numbers, we couldn't stop him. Outside the number, I wrote this down because I was amazed by this. Outside the numbers, he ran 27 out of 37 times. He gained 139 out of 178 yards outside the numbers, and he scored 1 touchdown. Even Godshaw said in the press conference, they kept running the same play and we couldn't stop them. Well, you've supposedly got one of the best defensive coaches on the sideline, and you can't stop one play because they kept playing. That game was just showed the whole season, really. It summed up the whole season in one game. Pants, depressing, uninteresting.
It was a microcosm of our season in general.
Yes.
Luke, what do you say, mate?
Yeah, I think you've all said it already. I think it just shows how anemic the offense has been this year and last year too. I mean, it's the same team pretty much. The defense, I think, finally, I suppose, I don't want to say gave up, but they kind of finally had one of those a bad performance, and it just goes to show how reliant on them we were. And even at times they were still forcing 3 and outs and things like that, or they were giving the offense relatively short field to work with at times, but it, I can't sit here and kind of go and blame the defense for the offense only scoring 3 points. 17 points is an acceptable amount of points to give up. It's just not an acceptable amount of points for this team to give up, because we can't score more than 7 points on a given week, so when I say it's not acceptable for us to give up, I mean, it's tongue firmly in cheek. I mean, 17 points should be, if an opposition scores, you'll take that as any other team in the NFL pretty much. Your defense holding everyone to 17. And the defense have been holding teams to under 10, under 15, under 20 points most weeks. And the weeks that they weren't holding them to those types of scores, it was because the offense were throwing interceptions on their 20, and the defense there's only so many times you can keep them out. As a former defensive player myself, if the offense is struggling, you're eventually going to concede points. You can't keep them out all the time. So yeah, particularly when you have as talented a running back as Breece Hall is. So it sum up the season. Yeah, I mean it's weird, and we've talked post game a few times. I expected this season. I probably didn't expect it this badly, but it's in line with my expectations. I'll be honest. Yeah, so I'm kind of not surprised at all by this season, but yeah, it doesn't make me feel any better.
Well, I mean, you was the closest out of all of us to what our prediction would be. I think you went 7-10. I think everybody else was all predicted we'd make the postseason, or just about anyway. You went 7-10, so you were the closest. You're still a mile off, but you were still.
Yeah, on a different podcast, I went for 6. I think that we did that maybe a couple of weeks after I've written down here, but it was on a different show, and I went for 6. But yeah, like,
you mean the podcast that cannot be named?
Yeah,
it can be correct. So anyway, that, as I stated, okay, it's the first time in 9 years the Patriots have lost to the Jets. 15 games we've had our way with them. And I did say this a few weeks ago, didn't I, Nick? Didn't I, Luke? What could be the final nail in the coffin? We lose to the Jets at home on the final game of the season. I must be a fortune teller, because it happened. Well, obviously, it's not the final nail in Belichick's coffin. Well, not yet anyway. But it just feels like we've just been stuck in the hamster wheel all season long. And it's just never ending. Never, ever ending. It's our worst record since 1992. We went 2-4. We went 2-14 in that season. 4-13 in the final standings, okay? According to Phil Perry at NBC Sports, he said it was a sad, bleak atmosphere inside Gillette Stadium, and it felt like it was of a muted nature. And apparently he said, and I quote this, it would cost you no more than $20 for a game ticket. I think it was $50 for the most expensive one, and then lower down. Maybe it has something to do with the weather, because it is snowing. But, Boston fans are quite hard people. They don't care if it's pouring it down with rain or it's absolutely blizzard out there. They will still go out and support the team. But even when us watching Red Zone, we're watching that game, and you could see not going to say it felt like there was apathy in that stadium, but it felt very discombobulated. It felt like the fans were just there. I thought it would have been a full sellout crowd. Maybe it could be the final game of Belichick's tenure and so on. Definitely the final game of Matthew Slater's career, because he's probably going to be retiring as well. But it just felt like the fans were just there let's just get this game over and done with. End the season now so we can focus on free agency and focus on the draft. It just, that's what it kind of felt like in my position. I mean, what do you guys think?
I mean, Phil, in that same conversation that Phil was talking about atmosphere, because you obviously heard that on Tom Curran's podcast, because I heard the same one. He said that he suspected he suspected a full stadium to, everyone to say bye to Slater, everyone to say what probably would be bye to Bill, and it was just not there. He said maybe the weather turned away some, but it couldn't account for the amount of people that weren't there. I think it's safe to say the reason why the attendance was poor was because of the product on the pitch. It's got nothing to do with the weather. The product on the pitch is the reason why the attendance was poor. I mean, we talk about 4 and 13. Luke said it a few minutes ago. The defense has been playing lights out all year, trying to keep us in games. And for the amount of games that we've lost by one score, there's a few games that we won, luckily, by one score that could have quite easily ended up 1-16. But the 4 and 13 doesn't actually do the defense justice. They deserve a better record than that. But if you give it to an inept offense that's got no positivity and no skill, what do you expect? We finished 29th in DVOA. We've got a lack of receiver talent and a lack of pocket time. Neither Jones nor Zappi had the time in the pocket because the O-line in front of them couldn't block and give the guys time to get through their reads. Now, Matt Jones probably needed half an hour to get through his reads because he seemed to go backwards. But you can't, 1-2 players can't do the whole job of the team. And we are back to the point that we have poor personnel because of bad drafting, bad free agency, and all in all, a poor performance at GM level. And that is why you've got fans turning away, because the product on the pitch is not good enough.
Yeah, I mean, like, why would you? The fans were given no reason to show up outside of the fact that there were people's last games potentially and things like that. But I mean, when you have played that badly all year, and even like sometimes you'll have bad teams, and I'm not talking about 0-16 teams, but I'm talking about teams in the 5-6 win kind of category. They'll still, there'll be games that they win, and they win kind of convincingly. It might be convincing on the scoreline, but it'll be a convincing win. The Patriots at no point, even in the games that they won, looked convincing on offense. And going back to Nick's point on the bad drafting and in general the bad team building, it just goes to show when you put all your resources in defense and you neglect the offense, you can still only win 4 games in the NFL with a I don't want to call them elite defense because I don't believe they're elite, but I believe they're very good. I don't think it's like a historic defense or anything, but it's a really good, solid top 10 defense. Like, you wouldn't need your defense to be any better than it is in order to challenge for a Super Bowl.
I think someone said it. I think someone said since week 9, the Patriots defense has been top 5 in the NFL.
Yeah.
In points given up.
Yeah. And that's them. They're playing with short fields.
And that is without our only pass rusher. And that is without our best corner in Christian Gonzalez.
Absolutely.
Can't believe I'm saying our best corner in Christian Gonzalez, but
Yeah.
if you can shut down Tyreek Hill just on your own, then you
Mhm.
deserve to be a number one corner. Fact.
Yeah.
But so this defense, it still need a few pieces over the top. Obviously, we'll move to free agency later on in the weeks as well, and that so on. But for me, just to end this all off, okay. Now we get to the Belichick speculation. Okay. I would talk a little bit more about the game, but there's no point. Congratulations to the Jets. You screw up your position in the draft. If someone leapfrogs your tackle, good luck of trying to replace him with. The only crumb of comfort for us, if you want to call it a crumb of comfort, is we did embrace the tank. We still play competitively, but we still embrace the tank with the third overall pick. We'll get in, but we will get into draft speculation and what we could pick and how we could pick this, that, and the other on a later date. And the reason why I say that is because now is not the time. Now we're just trying to get through the aftermath of whatever this hellhole was. So, in regard to Belichick, obviously, I believe it was a short meeting yesterday. Nothing really concrete has been said.
Waste of time. It was a waste of time. That's what it was.
It was a waste of time, but
nondescript, stupid answers to questions that you knew were coming. I don't know why. I don't know. I mean, I get why the press the press logged in and gave them their efforts because that's their job. But they must have known they were going to get absolutely diddly squat out of him because he was as ignorant and as stubborn as he has ever been, and just refused to give absolutely anything. And even with some genuine, reasonable, acceptable questions, the contempt on his face that I have to answer that question, it was just, again.
I actually think
Let me say this, please.
Go on.
6 Super Bowls and a dynasty gets you a lot of rope. It really does. And for the past 4 years, we have been seeing how many meters of rope he has actually got. But I'm afraid he has run out because he's just used every ounce that he has ever earned has gone.
Sadly, though, I think this is where you ran into a problem. So we looked at 3 scenarios, didn't we? We looked at, could he be fired? Could he just retire and released and parting of the ways between him and Kraft and say thank you for your time and this, that, and the other? Or the possibility of being traded. I've always said we could possibly trade Belichick, but I think Belichick has got too much leverage to be traded. And here's what I'll say why. There's a little piece in that press conference. You say he wasn't going to give any answers. There was a couple of things that he did say. He said he was under contract, which basically means that you're either going to have to keep me or you're going to have to fire me. That was aimed at Robert Kraft. And the other part was, I am more, it didn't say it all on the line, but apparently there was something he is open to relinquishing some of his duties, i.e. relinquishing the GM role. That wasn't aimed at the Patriots. That was aimed at the other teams that are begging for freaking begging for a quarterback. Sorry, messing my words up here. For a head coach. That was aimed at anyone that needed a head coach. I will relinquish my GM duties to be a head coach somewhere else, not for New England. Yeah, he's basically saying to Robert Kraft, you have to fire me, and if you don't, I'm just going to be sat on my desk gearing up ready for free agency draft and the upcoming season in 2024. That's them in a nutshell.
He's not getting traded. I think the Patriots would love to trade him, but he's not getting traded. I think you are left with those first 2 options. I think from the Patriots standpoint, the best thing to do is to just say to Bill, look, thank you very much for everything you've done. We're not going to ask for anything in return. we send you on your way with your with our best wishes. We'll tear up the contract. We don't owe you a penny. You go and get paid from your new team.
He does.
We won't ask for anything, and we go and we move on. That's ideally what the Patriots would like. What Bill wants is Bill wants the Patriots to sack him so that he can double dip and get paid twice, once by the Patriots and once by his new team. Yeah,
25 million. His final part of the contract, 25 million. That's how much the Patriots owe him.
So
I just think that the idea that he'd be traded is like ridiculous. Really, I was just checking there. Coach trades have happened. I think 4 of them have happened in the last 23 years. So it's not. I'm not saying impossible to happen, but I'm just saying
it's not impossible. But I'll go with a slight example here. Sean Payton, he was still contracted to the Saints. Yeah, he said he retired or took a sabbatical, whatever it is. The Broncos gave up a first-round pick to the Saints to get Sean Payton, who is a 1-time Super Bowl champion. Bill Belichick is a 6-time Super Bowl champion,
and he's
as a coach, and he's
73.
He's 71.
71. You know,
but this day and age of 71 is a lot different compared to what you would have been at 71 around about in the 80s or 90s. A bit different nowadays, but anyway.
He's already said himself that he wouldn't have coached past 70. So he hasn't got many years left, regardless.
But he wants that record. He wants that Don Shula. I think he's only 15 away. What is that? 2 seasons?
Exactly. So
with a mediocre team?
Why would you give a first-round pickup for 2 seasons maybe worth of wins?
Instant success. Why do you think the Jets have gone all out to go and get Aaron Rodgers? Because they want instant success.
Do you think he's going to be traded?
My thought was I think he can be traded. After watching a lot of content and reading a lot of articles, I'm now sort of on the precipice of I don't think it's likely he'll be traded.
Yeah, I don't think it's borderline. Like, I'm not going to say it's not going to happen, but 99.9% sure it's not going to happen. Just on the fact that, you know, they would need to find a trade. The thing is that, like, they would need to find a trade partner who wants him. He would want to go there. They would also need to come to some form of monetary compensation as well, because Belichick will be paid the 25 million, and minus whatever he gets from the new team, you know, the other team, the team that he's going to, will then have to give up assets to the team that he's leaving. So, as somebody, if we know Belichick at all, he values draft picks, and even though he's terrible at using them, he does value them. And he, I would say, would just be happier to be let go and then just go on his merry way to whatever team it is, you know, that he goes to, and they get to keep that pick. So I just don't think that there would be any sort of motivation for Belichick, the Patriots, or the team that is trading for him to actually do it that way. Because realistically, it's not like you'd get one team going, oh, look, we'll give you a first-round pick, and then another team going, oh, Jesus, we're not going to do that. You know, Bill wants to go to a different team. You'd need to have all three completely like, yes, we all want this to happen, and it needs to, and it'll be smooth, and it wouldn't be a long, protracted negotiation. I think.
Sorry, Nick, you were going to say something?
No, I was just saying, where would he go? Luke said it right there. He's got maybe 2 years, 3 at tops, but I don't think he's got 3. I think he's got 2. Now, Carolina, full rebuild, hasn't got the time, not going to want to go anywhere near that. Rule that one out.
Or that owner.
Washington, rebuild, hasn't got the time to do it. Much as I'm sure Josh Harris, much as I'm sure Josh Harris would pay through the nose to have Bill, hasn't got the time to do it. Let's rule those two out. One that's just appeared in recently, Tennessee, because Vrabel's just been sacked. Tennessee's got some talent, but not enough that Bill's going to be interested in that.
Not on the offensive side of the ball anyway. Derrick Henry's gone.
I foresee two teams where Bill would be interested. One is the Chargers. He's got a quarterback. He's got a defense he'd be interested in. The other one I can see is Atlanta. They've got they're stocked and ready to go. They just need a coach. And an outside chance would be Las Vegas, but I don't think they've got enough talent for him to be interested.
I think there is
are the only two that I can think he would even.
There is two reasons. There is two reasons why Belichick will not go to Las Vegas. First of all, Brady is part owner there. After he ousted Brady out the door, does he really think he's going to want Belichick in through this? Even though they say they're buddies. So I don't see that happening. And secondly, and probably this is the most important reason, Jim Harbaugh's going there.
That's true. I suspect Jim Harbaugh is going to Vegas, yes.
Also, on the precipice of Jim Harbaugh, congratulations to the Michigan Wolverines last night. They won the NCAA National Championship. And just as a little bit of an insight, we're not going to get their first running back in Blake Corum, because he's probably going to be a late first round probably at best, because he's just quality. But this dude right here, number 7, Donovan Edwards, going to be around about 4th, 5th round. I want him on this Patriots team next year. I want him.
McCarthy, don't you?
Piss off.
Sorry. I knew that was coming.
I did say I'd change my stance if McCarthy ended up winning with Michigan. And you know what? Fair play. He played probably his most strongest and most solid game he's ever played in his career. But we all know it's down to the running game and the defense. Let's call a spade, shall we? But anyhow.
I mean, Mike Florio said, was it yesterday or was it? What day is it today? Tuesday. I think Florio said yesterday or Friday that there's that sort of chance that a team that goes into the playoffs and then absolutely stinks, like say, for example, Dallas get blown out by the Packers, or, somebody like Tampa Bay or somebody like
Bucks
that.
Beating the Eagles. Bucks beating the Eagles, something like that.
Eagles, somebody like that just gets absolutely blown out in the first game when they shouldn't be, and they should be going further. They're the sort of teams I think Bill's going to be interested in, because they're the teams that are stacked. And that's what Florio said. He said, don't be distracted by all the teams that are looking for coaches now, because they're not the ones that you've got to look for. It's the likes of the ones that are in the playoffs, are ready to go, and just need a good coach, and lose in the first game because they're not good. Their coach isn't good enough. So
I tell you what, I'll go. I'll just little caveat. I'll go as far as this. Okay, what Dan Campbell has done for the Detroit Lions has been outstanding. It's been brilliant, but their defense is absolutely shocking. You take him out and put Belichick in as the coach, but you keep Ben Johnson as the OC. Do you not think that will elevate them? I know it won't. I'm talking in hypotheticals here. I'm not thinking that's what could possibly. But in an alternative universe, Belichick as coach and the OC of Ben Johnson. No, why not, Luke?
No. Because Ben Johnson's going to be a head coach somewhere. So under what circumstance would he stay? Like, what would be his motivation to stay? Here, you can go work under a guy that's known to interfere and run his own system on offense, and likes a system that's outdated. Or you can go be a head coach and get paid triple, quadruple what you're being paid right now. It's just not happening. He would not stick around. I think even if he didn't get a head coaching job somewhere, I don't think he'd stick around if Belichick was made the head coach. You'd also lose all the... Dan Campbell is absolutely adored by that roster.
Of course he is. He's adored by the city of Detroit.
If you fired him whilst they're on this high, we'll say, you'd lose the locker room. All the players with down tools. They wouldn't want to play for him. So under no hypothetical circumstance would that work or be on the table unless Dan Campbell obviously, completely craps the bed and makes himself fireable, but he's absolutely anything but at the moment. Regardless of whether you think he's an idiot or he's doing a good job or whatever, there's one thing you can't say is that he's on a hot seat. First 12-win season for the Lions since Barry Sanders was at running back.
Unfortunately, it'll all mean nothing if they don't beat the Rams on wildcard weekend. It will mean nothing. They'll have gone they've already gone 70 odd years of not winning a playoff game.
I think it for a team like the Lions, getting to the playoffs and winning the division is a big deal. It would, if we're Patriots, it'd be different. If you're the Ravens, it'd be different. For a team like the Lions, who've had so little success,
none,
having a 12-win, I'm not saying it wouldn't be disappointing. It wouldn't be a shock and all that kind of stuff. But I'm saying, like, the Rams are a solid team. They're not great, but they're solid. I don't think it would cost him his job or even anything close to that.
Yeah, fair enough. So there was a breaking report around about 6 o'clock this evening that Mike Vrabel has been fired by the Tennessee Titans. And the first thing that I see on social media is him being linked to the Patriots. Now, he was one of the candidates that was an outside shot to possibly come in to replace Bill. But now he has been fired. Does that now start the domino effect? Could that start the beginning of the end for Belichick regarding whether he resigns or whether he gets fired?
I think it could. I think he could have been. It could have been on the cards anyway. I think Vrabel, if he wasn't fired, might have just decided to leave anyway. I just think that your man Ram Carthen had come in as the new GM, and I think Vrabel was probably on borrowed time anyway. There, so I don't think it changes a whole lot. But the fact that it was done so quickly, I thought it might have been one of those ones that maybe they just kind of, over the next few weeks it kind of gets done or something like that. But yeah, like if Belichick is, I don't think it changes what the Patriots are going to do. But the fact that he's now available probably greases whatever wheels, are to be greased.
He's a younger, would you say he's a younger version of Belichick? Because he also grinds his plays. He also makes them work.
Yeah.
You watch that Tennessee team where they play very hard-nosed defense. They do. That unfortunately over the years they've just lacked talent.
Yeah, they've had a terrible roster for all the time that Vrabel has been there. I don't know how much of that he is to blame. John Robinson,
AJ Brown. They got AJ Brown,
and they traded him away. And Vrabel did not want that. In fact, he was apparently absolutely livid.
Can you imagine AJ Brown and DeAndre Hopkins together as a 1-2?
Yeah, exactly.
No thanks. No thanks.
So, like, he's John Robinson traded him away, and that's what cost John Robinson his job. trading AJ Brown away. So, I think just basically what they should have been doing the whole time with Derrick Henry is getting somebody that can pass the ball marginally better than Ryan Tannehill, which shouldn't be that hard. But they made it hard on themselves because they were like, no, we're just going to run and we're just going to have a really bang average quarterback just to hand the ball off to him and throw some play action passes. You can't win like that. You can't win in that sense. But they just didn't have the talented quarterback to do anything better. Was that Variable's fault? I don't know. I don't know how strongly he was pushing for it. They have a GM who lost his job for that very reason, that their offense was bad. So, I mean, I give Vrabel a bit of a free pass there, but I'm a confessed Mike Vrabel apologist. So,
Okay, well, here's a question. If Belichick was to go, who would you rather have? Mike Vrabel or Jared Mayo?
I don't.
Before you answer, get rid of the narrative of Vrabel has been a head coach already. You need to give me the proper reason why you would choose Vrabel over Mayo or Mayo over Vrabel. Go on, Nick.
Go on.
The reason I would pick Vrabel over Mayo, the reason being, I think the Patriots coaching personnel needs a complete overhaul. I'm not saying that Gerard Mayo doesn't deserve his time. He does. And for me personally, if I was Kraft and I was signing Vrabel, I would say to him, Mayo is your DC. That is unnegotiable.
Here is the problem, though. Jared Mayo turned down head coaching opportunities last year to stay as the DC for the Patriots. He's meant to be the heir apparent to the throne of head coach when Belichick does leave, or when he does leave, rather. But it's just so put yourself in Mayo's shoes. You're about to there's an opportunity you could be head coach of the Patriots here, but then Kraft ends up going to Vrabel and bringing Vrabel in. That's going to feel like I've just wasted a year here when I could have got a head coaching gig elsewhere. You'd feel like punching a wall.
I get
if that was to happen.
I get that, but my point being that you have just seen one of the worst coaching performances in our history. I don't think keeping and promoting coaches from within is the way the Patriots need to go. I would kick the Belichick children out, and I would kick some of his lieutenants out and say, see you later, thanks, off you go. I'd keep Clem, I'd keep Mayo, but I genuinely can't see how promoting Mayo is showing a step forward when we have just watched that for the last 18 weeks or 17 weeks possibly.
Can I jump in?
Go on, Luke.
I don't get the hate that the Belichick lads get the Suns. I don't get it. Like the defense has been nothing but good since they've been here.
That's down to Jared Mayo and DeMarcus Covington. Let's not try to give the Belichick Suns a pass here.
Well, why is it?
Me, though. I'm not hating on them because there are times, and Phil Perry said it this week, there have been times when the Belichick lads have actually called their dad out and stood up to him and said, no, don't do that, because the other coaches have been afraid or had not wanted to say so, and the two lads have put their head above the parapet because of who they are, and they've done it. Fair play to them. I am not saying that they need to go because of who they are. I'm just saying it's part. I'm not picking on them because of who they are. I'm just saying it's an overhaul. You're saying bye to the greatest coach that's ever been in the game. I think if his lads want to stay, and, for example, Vrabel has got a space for them and they want to stay, fine. I'm not
Yeah.
saying kick them to the curb because of who they are. I just use that as a really the whole the coaching staff needs an overhaul. So you're probably not going to keep that many of the assistant coaches anyway, because new coaches tend to want to bring in their own staff. But I would say if Mayo is happy to stay as your DC, that is an unnegotiable thing that he stays as the DC. That's all I was trying to. The point I was trying to make.
No, that's fair. But I suppose I'll direct towards Carl. What is it about the Belichick Sons that makes you think that it's definitely not them? It is everything good on the defense is Covington and Mayo, and everything bad is the Belichick lads. Because
Covington,
everything to reports and everything else and the players it's everything to the contrary, that actually they all work together really well, and it's, you know, there's no evidence anywhere that I've heard anyway that it's the two lads are undermining people and causing the defense to play badly. The defense plays well.
the thing is, though, fans don't read small prints. They only read the headlines. They only read the main article. And the first name that comes into anybody's head when it comes to the defensive side of the ball is Jared Mayo and maybe DeMarcus Covington, because he's the linebackers coach and has actually done an amazing job for us this year in the linebacker side of things. If the Belichick Sons do have their input, they've told their father, don't do this, don't do that, you know, all this, that, and the other, then okay, fine, I can deal with that. But there's a reason why they are only, you know, they're only small part coaches in this organization. I mean, if Belichick would have had his own way, he would have said to Jared Mayo last season, go and be the head coach at the Arizona Cardinals or whatever. Go do these meetings and so on. And if you do succeed, great. When I'll just hire my son Steve to come in to be the defensive coordinator. That's probably what would have ended up happening. But he ended up persuading Jared Mayo to stay on and say, you know, I want you to stay as my DC, but I also want you to be my assistant coach as well as. So there was already a blueprint already put in place. There was already a foundation put in place of maybe Jared Mayo stepping into Belichick's shoes.
Mm-hmm. No, but my question is that, like, I you haven't answered the question, I suppose. But my point, you were dismissing the two lads as the kind of, like, you know, why are they so bad and everybody else is so good, and everybody else, they seem to get the blame for when the defense is bad, and when the defense is doing good, it's Covington and it's Mayo. Whereas the players are being interviewed this year and in the last few years will say Mayo does the talking and the leading, and Steve Belichick does all of the X's and O's and puts the game plan together. And to be honest, since he's gone into that role, I think about 3 years ago, and I think him and Mayo kind of converged into that role really together. It's been highly successful. And Brian Billick apparently is, as the safeties coach, is extremely well liked. And he has probably one of the, probably our safeties are probably our best positional group, you know. You've had Jabril Peppers, you've had Phillips, you've had McCourty through the years. I mean, it's a very experienced one, and it's probably a group that basically leads itself. But, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, it's probably our strongest position group. So, yeah, this isn't so much a shot at you, Carl. It's just I hear it all the time from Patriots fans. Get the two dunce boys that are only there because of their dad out, and it's like, realistically, they're. You know, I mean, I'm in a Patriots fantasy football league, and I can't remember the name of it, but basically the name of the league is calling Steve Belichick an idiot, basically, is the words to the effect. And it's just like, I just don't understand why. Like, he you know, I really don't get it. I really don't. I think going back to the original point, because that was just a mini rant I wanted to have. I think I would do something similar if Mayo was willing to stick around. I kind of agree with you, Carl, though, in that I don't think he would be willing if somebody like Vrabel was to come in York, even though I think my choice would be to put Vrabel in over Mayo, because I think you need to get, whilst Vrabel is a Patriot,
Philosophy.
he's not a Belichick disciple. I think he forged his own coaching path. He formed going through, I think it was at Ohio State he was at. And then, he kind of came in defensive coordinator, and then he went, he's kind of done it outside of the Belichick tree. And I think, Nick, like you said, we've had a complete coaching brain drain recently. I think they've done well-ish on the defensive side. They've done well on the defensive side with the coaches that they have. Special teams has been an abject disaster. Offense has been an abject disaster. Now, I think they have theoretically the talent on special teams. I just think they've been terribly coached, seemingly. But yeah, I think to answer your question, Vrabel would be my choice, but I would not be disappointed in any way, shape, or form if Mayo was the head coach, because I love Gerard Mayo. But I think the best thing for the team would be Vrabel comes in and goes, "Love you lads, mean it, but I'm putting my own guys in. See you, good night and good luck." I think that's what needs to happen. I think what will probably happen is that Kraft goes, "Okay, Bill, we can't keep you anymore, but we want to keep everything that you set up and have going on. Gerard, your head coach, keep the lights on, basically. Keep this whole thing going. We'll get back to success." I think I don't think that's the right thing to do, but I think that's what may happen.
At the end of the day, we are a franchise, but we're also a business as well. And you have to make business decisions. And it might not appease the fan base at all, but you're doing it to change the culture of this team. You're doing it to build for the future. So I get it and I understand it.
One bit can I just add in there, because you brought up a really good point there, Carl. Really good point. And it's something that can't be dismissed, as the financial aspect of all this, is that if we've seen it, and we discussed at the start of the Patriots, fans not filling the stadium. The Patriots, in the nicest way possible, are probably not one of the more rich franchises. I think writers for the Patriots have hinted at, without directly calling it out, because I think there's a lot of respect for Robert Kraft, that we aren't one of those teams that can just pay our way out of cap situations, which would lead me to think that, put two and two together, that we're not very cash rich as an organization. And I think something like fans not turning up to games is something that would raise alarm bells more for an owner like Robert Kraft than it would, we would say, for Josh Harris or the lads in Denver or David Tepper or something like that in Carolina. 100%. Just wanted to put that out there, that financials may be more a factor for the Krafts than and also that those financials might be, we're not paying Bill Belichick $25 million to not coach and pay a new head coach another 10-15 million to come in and coach, and we're paying 35 million then, or 40 million for one season.
Basically on that assumption, then Kraft is hoping Belichick announces that he's going to retire, so you won't have to pay him or trade him, because that could be the only way he avoids that money.
Or he just lets him. He just lets it ride out next year and just doesn't give him a new deal.
but he has to relinquish the GM position, and that's something that we haven't. And that's something that we have. That's something that we haven't spoken about today.
I think that's what should happen. Even Belichick,
if Belichick relinquishes the GM role, I'll be more than happy to stay for his final year, because then Vrabel could end up going somewhere else, which is fine. But you keep Belichick, he relinquishes the GM duties. This is your final year with us. Get us to the postseason. Get us in a position where we can actually now start winning properly. We'll get a proper general manager. Not proper general manager. I sound very disrespectful. You get a general manager who can actually evaluate talent and understand the analytics of the draft, because that's something you have just completely pushed to one side, and start doing that way. I want to see a little bit of defense, but mostly on offense, because we are devoid of talent on the offensive side of the ball. Doesn't matter if it's tackle, tight end, wide receiver, running back. We're devoid of talent. Sorry, and quarterback position, but that's obviously stating the bleeding obvious here. One last thing we'll do before we get on out of here. Third pick. I don't want to know about trades and hypotheticals and how far up and down we can move. You're on the clock. You're not trading up. You're not trading down. You have the third pick of the draft. I'm going to go around the horn. I want each of you to choose what player you want with your third overall pick. Nick, start with you.
Who's gone? Give me 2 players that have gone.
Williams and May.
If I'm picking third, 2 players have gone already. So who's gone?
Williams and May.
I would say Williams and Harris. Could Marvin Harrison go?
Nah, not. I think when there's a quarterback.
All right, off the top. All right, let's just say Caleb Williams has gone to the Bears. Let's say Drake May has gone to Washington. We're on the clock. Who are you taking?
If I'm not moving, and I've got to pick somebody, then it's got to be Marvin Harrison Jr.
Okay, Luke.
I think go Daniels or Penix, but to be honest, I don't have much college football knowledge, so take everything I said there with a pinch of salt. I just think that if the quarterback is good enough, that he deserves to be picked at that point in the draft, not that you think he's not Cole Strange, basically, and you're just picking a guy in the third round and the first round.
Stop dissing Cole Strange. He hasn't had a bad season. He's actually had a good season. Don't diss him.
He's not had a good season. He's had at least I am not the direct reason that we're losing every week. And he's been at least gotten to the level of a borderline starter. That's how good. That's where he's been. He's ceased to now be the sole problem on the offensive line.
Jesus.
Okay.
Okay, fine. Okay, so Nick, you've gone for Marvin Harrison for the third pick. Luke, you've gone for either Penix or Daniels. I'll say this: after Penix's performance and then in the national championship last night, he ain't going first round. Penix ain't going first round. I'll die on that. I will die on that hill. I don't think Penix goes in the first round.
Clip that. Quarterbacks get overdrafted all the time. The time. The only reason he won't is that his medicals come back and
yes, and he is primarily a pocket passer. He doesn't move.
He doesn't.
He moves a little bit, but not like
Yeah, but he doesn't
everybody
need
else.
To. He doesn't need to. You look at Mahomes. Mahomes doesn't move unless he needs to just evade pressure, which is fine. He can do that. You don't need to be a complete Jayden Daniels dual threat or Lamar Jackson dual threat. You can just move out away from pressure.
That's true, but then Mahomes also runs like he's just himself. So, anyhow.
Who are you going for?
Daniels.
Yeah.
I think Nick getting PTSD over us missing out on Lamar Jackson. I think with this guy, he's too good to pass up. I've watched a lot of his highlight reels over the last few days. And this guy's electrifying. You thought Anthony Richardson, who's gone to the Colts, was very good throwing and very good with his legs. Jalen Daniels is something different. He is beautiful.
We could let Russ cook though. We could get.
I
Russ
don't want Rusty.
He can make some salads and some.
I wouldn't trust him to cook me a hot. I wouldn't trust him to cook me a hot pocket.
The only reason I said Marvin Harrison Jr. is you said I can't move down because I've got. We need so much to move out of that position. Seems to be the logical thing to do. There are solid, good players available. A few spots. If you want one of those 2-3 best quarterbacks, then you need to be up there. If you're not going to take one of those first 2 or 3 quarterbacks, then moving down for value and picks, which is what Bill loves to do. So if he's still in charge, expect that to happen. You know, that is what the team are desperate for because we have so many holes and we need so much that to move out of that number 3, even if you can move twice, I said this earlier, if you can move twice and you can move from say 3 to 5 and then 5 to 8, you will still get a decent player, and not to mention you will pick up stock, and more stock.
But they'll all be but they'll be all into be first rounds into the following years.
Yeah,
that's the way it works.
I think, like, if you need a quarterback, and my assumption is if they take a quarterback at 3, it's because they love the guy, right? Not because Jesus, we have to take a quarterback out. He's the best one, you know. Like it's they're taking him because they want him, and I'm sure that there would have been plenty teams wanting to trade up into that position with them, and they went, no, we're taking the quarterback. Otherwise, if you take a guy, I'm just going to use Harrison for example. You take a guy like Harrison, or you take a left tackle like Walt or something like that. Like, how much better does your franchise get if you get Joe Alt? Like, I mean, we're still going 4-13 with Joe Alt.
Oh yeah, I mean, a prime example. Who's the left tackle for the Browns? He's been there since he got drafted.
Joe Thomas.
Yeah, Joe Thomas. He's been there for so long, and he's never once sniffed success. Well,
yeah, exactly.
He's won a playoff game. He's now into his second playoff game. Is into his third playoff game, but he hasn't won anything. Hasn't won a division.
But he's retired as well. He's long retired.
And he's long retired. So, you know.
But just going back to Harrison you'd end up with what Garrett Wilson is at the Jets. A team that still can only get 5 or 6 wins.
And this is why taking a tackle with the pick we've got doesn't make any sense.
Or Harrison, or wide receiver doesn't make much sense.
I'll stop you right there. So the Bungles were in that same sort of situation. They had the chance of taking Penei Sewell at tackle to protect Burrow, or they took his boy from LSU, Jamar Chase. What do we do?
Completely different argument, though, because they had a quarterback already. We don't have one. So you of course you take Jamar Chase. That was borderline a no-brainer. But when you don't have a quarterback, you end up with what the Jets have. You have a guy like Trevor Siemian or Zach Wilson starting for you, and you have a guy like Garrett Wilson rotting away, basically. And you still only get 6 wins. So what's the point? You need a quarterback, or else you're going to be, you might win two more games next year. And and Joe Alt or Harrison might be the reason you do it. But you're still only 2 games better off, and you're still shite. So what's the point? Just if you think one of the quarterbacks is good enough to lead a franchise and put you in contention. And when I say put you in contention, I don't mean Minnesota Vikings with Kirk Cousins put you in contention where you'll get into the playoffs. You might win one game, or you just lose at the first hurdle every time. I mean, a proper contender, then go for it. If they don't think that there's a guy there, fair enough. I think Nick's scenario of trading down is absolutely the right thing to do. And just collect talent and move on. But the only issue I see with that is how many quarterbacks are going to be there next year when you need to go and draft them. And if you are if you're now a win or two better off, that means you're probably drafting 50.
The only two quarterbacks.
I know you're out.
The only two quarterbacks I can think of next year in the draft would be Ewers, who is the quarterback for the Texas Longhorns, and Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah,
they're the only two I think of, and there's no guarantee that those two are going to go straight to the moon.
Yeah,
they could be a mid-round pick, and we could be thinking, "Oh, Jesus Christ, we're probably
end up with Kenny Pickett." You know,
Jesus Christ.
So
Yeah,
anyway,
in 2026, Manning's available to be drafted.
He will not come to the Patriots. You know for a fact. You know for that Arch Manning will not come to the Patriots.
Because he's
Archie, Peyton, and Eli will not allow that to happen. They will not allow that to happen.
I think they would. I think they've got Patriots are a great organization. They have great owners, classy organization. I think that absolutely would be like, yeah, go there. Or what are the other options? Oh, you Chargers, Commanders, Panthers. I know who I'd be sending my son to. It'd be the equivalent of me going, who would you prefer to send your child to? Liverpool, who I detest, Manchester United, who are my team, or who else? Spurs or Everton. I would tell him to go to Liverpool because the other three are car crashes of clubs. Even though I hate Liverpool, but I know he would be better off there.
Okay, fair enough.
We will leave it to that analogy.
No, we're not going to go down that road, Nick. Right, we're going to.
Didn't you City or Arsenal in that argument?
No, and I'm glad you did it. Otherwise, I'd have to break glass. Anyway, we're getting on out of here. What a fantastic show! End of season. We have the third overall pick. Let free agency and the draft commence next week. We will have a full-on season review. All four of us will be here, and we have a special guest coming on, but that will be detailed later on next week. But for now,
is it Mike Vrabel?
It's not Mike Vrabel. Thank you to Nick. Thank you to Luke. No. Lads, you've been good as always. You're my boys. And it's been a fantastic season. For us, for this podcast at least. It's been a fantastic season. But for this team, glad it's over and done with. Thank you all for watching. Smash the like on the video. Hit the subscribe button. Tell all your friends. Follow us on social media. Follow our podcast on Spotify. We will be back next week for a season review of this absolute shitstorm. And we might have an answer to what happens with Mr. Bill Belichick. Also, as well, guys, if anything comes out between now and our next podcast regarding of Belichick, fired, retired, released, whatever it is, you can guarantee you will be on here very, very quickly. So please make sure you pin your ears back and you keep an eye on us. Hit the notification bell as well when we do go live so you can keep an eye on us. Thank you, everyone. Go Patriots. See you next week. Bye-bye.